Hello everybody, Christopher Beast here. In today's video, I did it again. I opened 50 crates and I measured the exact loot I got from all 50 crates. Now these are all white crates because I had to keep the, the data, at least somewhat stable. And after I had opened all 50 crates and calculated the data, I came to a very complicated question of why the hell did I do this? So I have made a fake video idea that is this video that justifies my waste of time. So are white crates really worth it? Long story short, if you don't want to watch however long this video ends up being, no, they're really not worth it for a high tier player. But, I like crunching statistics, so let's get into it. A normal high tier player will not gain enough out of 50 crates to reasonably explain why they should loot them, was my concluding statement after I'd made this little study. So that should give you a little preview of what we're about to enter. The weapons that are returned by crate may be the one thing that makes them slightly worth it. I'm putting a big emphasis on the word slightly here, as 21 more M16s or 15 more AKMs, which are weapons that are used by a lot of people based off of the weapon frequency chart I made. Based off that, it's kind of good to have these things and, just useful pieces of materials to have. The resource yields of white crates focus on producing wires than any other resource. If you are someone who is grinding for wires, I guess these are somewhat useful to you. Not by a lot, though. The other resource yields are not enough for high-tier players to afford any future upgrades, and barely more than one can achieve in 1 to 3 normal rounds. So we're talking, if we're going to look at the statistics, exactly, we're looking at wires for nails 175, fertilizer 275, chemicals 160, glass 150, metal 400, like abysmal amounts that just aren't worth the time and aren't worth getting the crates. Moving on to ammo, though, when dealing with ammo, I came across an outlier. This outlier alone made it so that way ammo was actually worth it. I received 2K Makarov ammo. However, I want to point to 2 things. One, this outlier is sheer luck. I highly doubt this is a consistent piece of data. It's an outlier after all. And also, who uses Makarov ammo? I don't. Any high tier player doesn't. So, no. I will also know, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, 120 ammo, which is what a normal card of ammo will be, in 13 different ammo types is kind of nice. It's not amazing, because the ammo I actually want I'm just going to craft, but at least it's something that this does correctly. Moving on, we have materials. Material-wise, I was paid pretty nicely with 20K materials. That's a pretty nice yield. And I only received 20 crowns across my crate distribution, but that's a pretty low amount, so I think it was just, something off with the data. I'll have to do further investigation to find out what actual crown distribution across crates actually is. But in regards to weapon parts, I found 3 parts for 6 different weapons, which is helpful for lower players, but for high-tier players who, can get the weapons they want by crafting it, and they don't really need to get parts anymore, especially when the Thompson and Mosin parts can be found in random lootables. This is just something that's just not useful to us. Moving on from if it's worth it or not, because I think I've made a pretty solid argument that it's not worth it, we can move into analyzing this data. So if you take each amount, so if you look at a card, and you get 3 cards per crate, and the amount you get in a card, that 1 card is going to count as 1 for this piece of data, okay? That's a card. I don't know how else to explain this, but yes. So the rate is a good explanation as to really frequency of how often we find something, because the other thing is just how much are we getting. To find frequency, we can't really just take things that are measured at different amounts and slam them together. It won't work. But to find the frequency, we can do exactly what I just said, count it by the cards. If we do this, we find that mats have the most cards, followed by wires, food, and then racks. PM63 racks. This raises a good explanation as why us high tiers don't really like white crates, as none of those things are useful to us, but low tier players want at least 3 out of the 4 of those. I mean, nobody really wants PM63 racks in the current meta. As if we go back to a previous investigation I did, we found that the rack occupies 2% of frequency of weapons found in rounds. That's extremely low and pretty much should be proof that nobody really wants to run racks. But moving on from there, I want to kind of take some data that we learned from the frequency chart. And if you haven't seen my frequency chart of weapon distribution, that link should be in the description if I remember to format my description correctly. But basically, I did a full-blown investigation where I counted which guns we had across 50 rounds. And again, this data, the same is true with this white crate data, where it's like, okay, this could just be, offhand data that isn't solid because it's such a small sampling size with only 50. But if you do trust that type of data, you'd probably have already left this video by this point if you didn't, to be honest. But yeah, I'm just going to move straight into it. So looking at the distribution of what you can find in white crates and then comparing it to this data, we can find some pretty interesting conclusions. So the top 5 weapons in the weapon frequency chart are the AKM, the M16, the Thompson, and the SG1 and H-bar. Out of those, only two have spawns that are located within white crates. Then again, based off this data selection, I have seen select data selections that say Thompsons, SGs, and H-bars all spawn, but they aren't as common as the AKM and M16. The 2 that do spawn in this selection are the M16 and the AKM, which had 5 and 7 cards respectively. And while I don't think that common crate loot distribution has a huge effect on weapon frequency, I do think it affects it slightly. It allows more players to get AKMs and M16s earlier on, and to support that even more, I mean, 5 and 7 cards, and we look at the percentage of, how common M16s and AKMs are, we're looking at 10 and 8%. It's a pretty high percentage of frequency, and then pretty high percentage of frequency within this as well. I don't think it's really too much of a far place to say that perhaps the frequency of how often AKM and M16s end up in white crates does affect the overall meta as well, letting people get these guns earlier in game. But that's just my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something. I don't know what you could have learned, as I'm very, not organized. But I enjoyed gathering this data, and I hope some people find it interesting, because I sure do. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to be making a lot more frequency videos in the next couple weeks. I have one in particular that's quite interesting. That's up my sleeve. But, yeah, I'll see you all next time.